Okay, so in the last video we built the tension piece. This video we're going to build the compression piece. So here are all the components ready to go for the compression piece. We've got the beams, we've got the cross members, we've got the vertical helpers, and then the end pieces that the loading block sits on. So the first thing that's I like to do that's really handy is, say we have our design, and for my benchmark design I used 18 cross members and an over-under design, and then the two pieces on the end to hold the loading block and to hold the pieces together. So instead of just using a ruler and measuring this every single time and trying to do the math to get that all correct, a really handy thing is to take a scrap piece of wood and use this as a template, like a marking template. And you can see on this piece, I have dots at every single location where the cross pieces will go, and I have markings where the end pieces are, and I even have the vertical pieces or markings where the vertical helpers will go. And the idea is then you can use this stick to transfer these markings to your actual beams, which is really handy. So I'll show that process. So the key is you just align it, make sure it's, your beam is the correct length. So this is all squared up. You can hold this together, and now you can just take a Sharpie, and we can just mark on the, so that now I'm marking the locations for the cross beams, and now I'll just put a dot at every location where one of the cross members will glue on one of the sides. This is both sides. I put a dot where the vertical piece is going to be. That's my blue marking here. I'll show that a little later. Yep. And this way, you won't make any mistakes with math or getting the wrong dimension. And it's really important to have this marked up before you start gluing anything. All right, so this is one beam ready to go. And then for the flip side, so our vertical helpers in this design are on the outside of the beam. So for this one, the marking for the vertical pieces will be on the back side, but the process is the same. So we get this all squared up. And again, you can mark the ends. This time that's there on that side. All the while I'm holding these pieces together just so they don't move. Okay, so now we have our two beams that are fully marked up. We don't need this anymore. And we should be ready to go to start building this. So this is the part I use, a very simple 3D printed jig. It's literally just an extruded rectangle. It's 2 centimeters wide, and I believe I made it 10 centimeters tall. And this will go in here. And its sole purpose is just to keep these pieces straight. So I do like to use the wall here just to help have these things be pushed all the way to the edge, right? Because we're trying to make this as square as possible. Right now it doesn't matter where on that block it is. And now we can just make sure that this kind of looks right. Yeah, and it's pretty good. So what the plan is work from this end backwards and start with these basswood pieces at the end, and then just start going backwards, all the while trying to keep this thing flush against this. And you know, you can use tape to hold this down if you want. You can potentially do all sorts of things to help try and do that, but with a little practice, you can just hold it and do the assembly part one-handed. So this is another reason why it's nice having these things ready-made. You know, let's see if we can do this. So we'll start in the end. Well, let's do what we should do and make sure this is going to fit. Let's always test this. So you know what's going to happen. Yep, so that will fit on there nicely. Now we can put our drop of glue there. Drop of glue here. And I'm still holding this tightly against the jig. And now we can just hold this for a few seconds. So this is now balsa that we're gluing to, so you don't need to hold it quite as long. So that's pretty good. And now we just go to the next one. All right, that's a good start. Now is the tedious part. So now we have all these cross pieces, and these are going to be laid diagonally from one dot to the next. So like this and then like this. Just in a diagonal. It doesn't matter which way you start. You can just pick one side. You know, I like to, you know, you do glue both at the same time. That. Not bad. Let me show the technique so we can tape this down just to make it a little cleaner. This is blue painter's tape, which means it sticks, but it's not so sticky that it will, it's meant to be removed from a wall after you've painted, so without doing any damage. So this stuff works really well for our builds. We can just pick a spot to tape this down firmly, but not too firm. But that helps hold it in as another hand. So these are those guys. So now we just do the next diagonal piece. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't need to be perfect, and it doesn't matter if it hangs over a little bit, because we're going to sand that up a little later. So this is why it's really handy to have all these dots drawn. So you know exactly where you're applying the glue and exactly where the piece is going before you put any glue down on your part. And to save time on the final video, I'll probably speed this up because this process is the same for all of these cross pieces. As we get close to the end, this isn't really needed anymore. We can still hold it together. We can take this off. Now we can just move this into a nicer location to make it more convenient to glue. Okay, so now we basically have one half of this done. And what we can do now is basically just turn it over and do the other half. And we really don't need the 3D printed jig anymore. It will just hold its shape nicely without it. So we can just have that aside, flip this over, and you want to make sure it's square on the ends. Oh, look at that! I forgot. I forgot to mark the back side. I knew I'd forget something doing this live. So we're going to do that right now. We can just do that here. So you definitely want to do what I'm doing now before when I marked it earlier. But if you forget, it's not the end of the world. And we'll do this side also. Just get things lined up. Okay, so now it's where it should have been originally. And you can see it already holds together pretty well. So it's not super strong, but it's enough that it will hold its shape pretty well. And again, we can start on this side with the basswood pieces. You see me changing pins every now and then. Don't be afraid to change pins every time there's excess glue on the end, just so you get a cleaner transfer of glue. So again, we can make sure this is going to fit, and then we just repeat the process on the back side. And this is certainly the most tedious aspect of the build, but every single one of these joints is important. So you gotta take care that they're done properly. And the reason we need this cross bracing like this is as the Boomi gets loaded, it has to resist the buckling forces in different directions, and this cross bracing resists it in this direction, so it will keep it from being squeezed together or bowing out. And then finally, as we do the cross pattern on the other side, just do the opposite way you did it on the other side. That helps it be more resistant to or more symmetric top to bottom. So it doesn't matter which side is which, but then just do them the opposite direction. Again, I'm sure I will fast forward this part because they're all the same. Well, it's a good sign I didn't have any extra pieces, so that's good. All right. Okay, so as we get the last piece on there, we can kind of evaluate how well this was done. Seems to be pretty good. Yeah, you can see the pattern over under. This is actually fairly sturdy right now. So the next thing we're going to do is sand off the edges to make this smooth, and saves a little weight, and it gets us ready to put the verticals and the tension members on. So let me get my sander real quick. Okay, so this is my Dremel tool that has a sanding disc on it. This is how I like to sand off these things. You can just use sandpaper if you want, but this goes much faster. You want to notice the rotation direction. This is spinning around clockwise like this. And when you're sanding, so we're going to sand off these pieces to make them smooth. We want to sand vertically like this because the rotation like that is not trying to pop the sticks off. So if we sanded it like this, it would be trying to pull the stick off. So it's just better to align it this way. And these are pretty lightweight balsa, so it doesn't take much. And again, as much as possible, I like to keep the tool as stationary as possible and move the device into place. Now when I'm doing it, I usually like to do this over, hunched over a chair or something. Doing it for the camera is a little more tricky, so we'll just get through this here. That's pretty good. Okay, so that's not bad. Then I always like to finish off with just a sanding pad to make sure the surface is smooth and there's no extra pieces. Okay, that's a pretty good shape there. All right, so now the final piece to this compression member. All right, so just so we can see how this is going to work. So this will be on like that. Our tension member will eventually connect here. But if you recall in my design, I also have vertical members to help prevent this from bending. So I found it was actually easier to attach them now rather than later. And it looks like somehow I managed to reverse both of these and my dots are on the inside. So we're going to transfer them so you can see them here and here. Basically, we just want, this is where our sticks are going to go. And on this side. Okay, and the way I like to do this, so here are my vertical helper sticks. Yeah, so I like to draw a straight line on where they're going to be. So I use just an extra loading block. We can, instead of just that dot, we can make a straight line there. Make a straight line there. Do it on the other side. Okay. So now the only remaining piece is to actually attach these things. So these two are going to go here, and then these longer ones are going to go here. So the way I found I like to do this is to align it like this. We can pre-mark on this stick 15 millimeters because that's how thick this is. So let's mark that. And we can actually do that with all the sticks. Again, this is just another way to know exactly what you're going to be doing before you glue anything. So now we set this up like this. And the idea is we're going to coat glue on here, and then we're going to place this on there as straight as possible and hold it. So that's not so bad. So we put glue here. And try and get this as straight as possible. And just hold that like that for a few seconds. And then the longer one, do the same thing. And now we just flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. And just make sure you get it in the right direction and use the right piece on the right side, or on the correct side. And these pieces are cut a little long, so we can, after we attach them to the tension pieces, we just snip off the excess. We'll show that in the assembly video. Okay, last piece here. And if it's not perfectly straight, don't rip it off and do it again. It's not super critical, but just, you know, get it as straight as you can. Okay, that is a completed compression piece ready for final assembly. So that's what we'll look at in the next video, putting the tension piece on place and doing the finishing touches. All right.